and gentlemen, and very welcome to Kiltorcan Raceway here in sunny County Kilkenny for round 3 of the Tillotson Ireland Karting Championship 2025. What a tremendous day of racing we have for you. We're just coming to the end of our final few qualifying heats. Out on track currently are the Miami X30 Juniors, one of the most formidable classes of racing in Irish karting, with a grid of 23 drivers for this race weekend. Now that is the smallest grid that we have seen in the X30 Juniors so far this season. The previous 2 rounds have been sellouts of 26 drivers in each race. However, this weekend losing 3 drivers, so down to a total of 23, but that isn't going to prevent good hard racing up the front, and it is set to be a wonderful affair as they make their way around, warming up their tyres. Now, these X30 Junior karts are fairly formidable beasts when their tyres are cold, as they rock across the line to start their first flying laps. Michaela Hart appears to be the first one to be logged on the timing screen, although there is one driver in front of her. I believe that may be John Foley Jr., who's currently sitting in front, in pole position on the track at least. We'll wait until the end of the session, the end of the 5 minutes of qualifying, before we make any assertions about whether he is on pole or not. Had a very good strong showing last time out in Watergrass Hill in Cork. John Foley Jr. was competing towards the front of the grid, as was Michaela Hart. Had a very strong showing. A winter champion coming into this season, really flying the flag high for females in motorsport. As they make their way round the final corner, across the line comes one of our drivers, although by live timing, is Tyke Buckley. So Tyke Buckley sets the benchmark of a 49.3 second lap. Ben McLaughlin is in second with a 1 second gap. Buckley really laying down the gauntlet nice and early with a very competitive benchmark time, getting under the 50-second mark, doing a tremendous job. You see a very big gaggle of karts in the midfield section. Now, real art to try and find. Some drivers are able to do it better than others. Some stretch out to the, and then others try and get into a pack in the midfield of each as much as is possible. Obviously, across the line come the drivers to set their second laps. It was still Buckley up the front, but now Adam Holmes jumps into second place. He pips McLaughlin. He's only short of Buckley's time by less than a tenth of a second. Only about 6/100ths in it. So doing a very good job, Adam Holmes, another driver who was right up towards the front of the pack. Michaela Hart having fallen down the order. She's currently sitting in 9th. James Nolan putting in a fantastic second lap. He's jumped up 11 positions, currently sitting in position number 8 with a 49.0. Doing a fantastic job, James Nolan, in only his second lap of this qualifying session. Martin Shannon also doing a good job. He's sitting in 10th, gaining 11 positions also. But it is now Ben McLaughlin who goes to the top of the tables and is immediately displaced by Adam Holmes. Charlie Gardner, the Northern Irishman, jumps up into 3rd position, as we see all of the drivers rocketing across the start-finish line. The second quickest class of the weekend in terms of top speeds. And you can really hear that down into turn 1 as they rocket past the commentary box that we have here at Kiltorcan. You can hear the tyres skating along the asphalt. Kiltorcan with a revised layout as of fairly recently. This track celebrating its 25th year in business this year. So we wish them all the best into the future, and having recently changed the layout, it is still a learning opportunity for some drivers. A more complicated, a more technical layout now, but that doesn't seem to be a problem for our drivers up the front. Ben McLaughlin sitting pretty with a 47.6 second lap time, and then behind him by only 16/1000ths of a second is Adam Holmes, so doing a fantastic job. Then comes Tyke Buckley, having been displaced from his initial provisional pole position. I can tell you that the top 4 are within, oh crikey, 64/100ths of a second That is Ben McLaughlin, Adam Holmes, Tyg Buckley and Jamie English, all doing an incredible job getting that close to each other, but it is ultimately Ben McLaughlin who's sitting on top as the timer clicks to 0 and the checkered flag is shown. We wait to see who will set the fastest final lap. Will it be enough to pip Tyg Buckley, who now takes the provisional pole position with a 47.5 second time, 62 100ths faster than Ben McLaughlin, so just over half a tenth quicker. As they all make their way across the line, will Ben McLaughlin be able to respond? We await to answer that question. Adam Holmes on a lap as well. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any sector times here at Kiltorcan, so the only way that we know who has improved is when they cross the line, and all the drivers cross the line. Adam Holmes takes pole position in front of Tyg Buckley. Ben McLaughlin falls down to third right at the last, and it was a 57.542 second lap time for Adam Holmes. The OHR crew celebrate delightfully at that news, and Adam Holmes taking pole position pending final classification, of course. Provisionally he is on pole pending scrutineering, but we don't anticipate any issues there, and so it will be Adam Holmes on pole for the IAME X30 Junior category. So tremendous performance by all of our competitors there, having a very strong showing, many of them. I can tell you that the lead novice in IAME X30 Juniors, well, there was only one novice, that was Jack Peters, who finished down in 18th position. But the top 5 for you were Adam Holmes, Tyg Buckley, Ben McLaughlin, Jamie English, Aaron Murphy, rounding out the top 5, and then Charlie Gardner in position number 6. Then came Michaela Hart in 7th, and unfortunately my live timing is just updated to tell me that the T4 seniors are going out on the track, so I won't be able to bring you the rest of the top 10. Of course, you can follow along with the live timing on timing.ie if you want to see the same data that I'm looking at as I bring you the timing information. And of course, we are live on Facebook and YouTube at Vantage Point Video, so do make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and like and follow our Facebook page also. So a tremendous qualifying session from the IAME X30 Juniors. We await now for a few seconds while some of our marshals and COCs get back into position, and all of the T4 seniors begin to pull away out onto the circuit. We saw a tremendous battle in T4 Senior last time out in Watergrass Hill, and immediately there's racing straight off the back there between, that looks like Jack Mackenzie Smith, and that could be Tyler Brereton as far as I can see. It's certainly a PBR racing driver. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it's Brereton, who was right up the front last time out in Watergrass Hill. Had a fantastic battle in the heats with Jack Mackenzie Smith, and we can look forward to even more of that again today. This circuit really favouring the driver who understands technical corners much more than Watergrass Hill. Watergrass Hill only about half a dozen corners and a 30-ish second lap. I think the IAME X30 seniors were lapping at around 31 seconds in Watergrass Hill. Around here it's about 55, 54 seconds. We'll be able to prove that point in but a few moments' time when we get underway for the X30 Senior qualifying heat. Very different tonality from the 4-stroke Tillotson T4s. A tremendous sound, it has to be said, very much grumbling as they come across the start-finish line compared to the whizzing and banging of the X30 2-stroke machinery. All making their way around to set a banker lap time. Can confirm it was Tyler Brereton and Jack Mackenzie Smith who were having a bit of a battle straight out of the gates, coming out of the pit lane on what was only their warm-up lap. The tyres would have been stone cold at that stage, so very brave to go battling in that situation. As all the drivers make their way across the line, Tyler Brereton is the first to cross the line. Aaron Coogan takes the top spot initially with a 53.4 second time. He did very, very well in round 1. around here. Struggled slightly last time out with the pace, but seems to be back on form. Aaron Coogan, the OHR driver, with tremendous form and tremendous pace. Won many races in the Irish T4 Championship last year, and indeed went across to the UK and also won over there. So he is a driver with pace and a driver with pedigree and a driver with a tremendous team behind him in OHR. And he's currently sitting on a 53.4 second lap time. We can expect the lap times to drop throughout today as drivers get more and more dialed in with the circuit. All the drivers making their way across the start-finish line once again. Aaron Coogan still sitting on top. Yuri Bechtold now takes second position with a 53.1 second time. Bechtold, the Dutch driver in his first season of Irish karting, making the jump from Dutch T4s, coming across to Ireland and having a good time of things, it has to be said. Struggled to get up to pace initially, but on his return to Kiltorcan for round 3, having raced here in the beginning of April, he seems to be making strong progress with a 53.1 second time, only 15/100ths behind Aaron Coogan. That is really a mark of tremendous progress from Yuri Bechtold, making his way across the line. Peter Brett is currently the lead novice in this class in 13th place, now bumped down to 14th by Jim Toomey, as Jack Mackenzie-Smith takes second position away from Yuri Bechtold. Aaron Coogan sets his fastest lap as he comes across the line to retain his provisional pole position. 52.6 is the time from Coogan, doing a tremendous job. Now he has got a bit of a tow there, it seems like, from Tyler Brereton, so perhaps playing to his advantage. Jack Mackenzie-Smith, I'm trying to locate him somewhere around the lap. I can't spot him particularly in the 417 machine, but he is having a good running so far, always towards the front of the grid. Was very strong last time out in the T4 senior category. Scored third place in the final here in round 1. Jack Mackenzie-Smith, who's now been bumped down into third place by Josh Allen, who's improved by 8 positions on that lap. Luke Palmer, currently sitting in 6th, has improved by 9 positions, so tremendous improvements all round. But Josh Allen doing a very good job, gaining 8 positions there. And with only 5 seconds left on the clock, all the drivers onto their final lap. It all comes down to this for Coogan, Allen, Mackenzie-Smith, Bechtold, Butler, Palmer, Brereton and the rest, who will come out in the first place in the T4 senior qualifying session. Now, it is important to say that this isn't the be-all and end-all, and there is the opportunity for improvement in the heats, even with an off-pace qualifying session. But Coogan comes across the line. He doesn't improve, but he is still on provisional pole. Robert Butler now into second place. Jack Mackenzie-Smith remains in third. Josh Allen bumped down to 4th. Tyler Brereton currently sitting in 5th place. Yuri Bechtold has been bumped down to 7 behind Keith Burke. Also another OHR driver in Keith Burke. Oren Henry Racing, with many mechanics lining the trackside here along the start-finish straight in preparation for the heats, analysing which drivers are lost, where can each of their drivers improve. Oren Henry Racing, a tremendous outfit in Irish karting, making huge investments and giving drivers a tremendous chance to improve. As all the drivers make their way across the line, will be Aaron Coogan, who is on pole in front of Robert Butler in second, Jack Mackenzie-Smith and Josh Allen in third and fourth respectively. Then comes Tyler Brereton and Keith Burke. Yuri Bechtold in 7th in front of Luke Palmer and Luke Kavanagh in 9th, with Warren Russell rounding out the top 10. Then came Adam Butler and Brian Wilson in 11th and 12th. Peter Brett, Max O'Neill, Jake Brunel in 15th in front of Jim Toomey. Elijah Mooney, Ollie Clark, Evan Darcy, Niall Leahy in 20th, and Isabel McDermott in 21st place. Isabel McDermott one of the Wexford Motor Club's Youth Academy drivers. Put in a tremendous showing at the Kiltorcan Family Fun Day at the end of last year, and is back for more in the T4 senior category. Significant competition waiting for her though, and seemingly not able to make the most of that T4 kart on this occasion, but plenty of opportunity to improve a bit later on in the weekend. So we await for the T4 Senior 168s. I do believe it is. Indeed it is. And their 4-stroke TPP 225 RS engines roll into life. They all make their way out of the pre-grid area and begin the task of warming up their tyres. It looks to be, well, I can't tell you who exactly is first out of the pits for the T4 Senior 168s. It could be Niall Herson. I wouldn't be surprised if it is Niall Herson, as he had a very strong showing, and I believe the pre-grid is decided by championship order. Niall Herson with, as far as I can remember, a clean sweep last time out in Watergrass Hill. Indeed, yes, first place in timed qualifying, first place in the first heat and the fastest lap. Same story in the final. The only missing out that was done by Niall Herson was the fastest lap in Heat 2 in Watergrass Hill. So Herson very much the favourite going into this race. In terms of how the T4 Senior 168s performed in qualifying here for round 1, it was Colin Munnelly who took pole. Herson missed out by 4.5 tenths of a second, as we have a driver who is stranded in the gravel. Now, could that be Eddie Roach, I'm thinking? They're near Marshall Post 3. The Marshall's trying to get the car restarted. They don't look to be having any luck with it. Is there going to be a reignition? Marshall's still tending to it, but I think this might be the day over for the 506 machine. That is Niall O'Flynn, excuse me. So Niall O'Flynn with a difficult qualifying out before he's even got a lap in. Bad news for O'Flynn, but plenty of time to make back those positions later on in the weekend. Yellow flags flying. That's not what you want in a qualifying session as you try to set fast times. But it is Colin Munnelly who's currently got the fastest time with a 54.3 second lap. Scott Garvey sitting in second in front of Niall Herson. Then comes Kyle Kavanagh in fourth and Eddie Roach in fifth. Philip Godfrey currently the leading novice in 8th place. So Colin Munnelly doing a fantastic job. As I say, he scored pole position here in timed qualifying for round 1 by 4.5 tenths of a second. Now, it's only 2.5 tenths the difference to Scott Garvey, and now that they've come across the line again, it was Colin Munnelly. It is now Mickey Brennan who missed out by, well, only 1/1000th of a second. Kyle Kavanagh has now taken pole position away from Munnelly. So it is now Kyle Kavanagh on provisional pole by 4 tenths of a second in front of Niall Herson. Then comes Mickey Brennan, who scored a podium last time out, was very happy with his result in the final in Watergrass Hill, with those very distinctive white overalls, very easy to see as a commentator, which is tremendous, lovely and easily identifiable. With only 90 seconds left on the clock, it is all starting to settle down. I can tell you that Niall O'Flynn is still running. His best lap so far is a 2-minute 11-second lap, having been stranded in the gravel, but he has managed to get going again. So where will Niall O'Flynn improve to after that difficult time initially, having a spin and ending up in the gravel on the inside of the course, on the infield near Marshall Post 3, as I mentioned. Kyle Kavanagh still in first position, now with Mickey Brennan only 1/10 of a second behind him. So a tremendous competition emerging here between Kavanagh, Brennan and Munnelly. 3 real front runners in the T4 Senior 168s. The 168s catering for the slightly older and slightly heavier driver. Minimum weight limit 10 kg heavier than the regular seniors. Regular seniors with a minimum weight limit of 158 kilos. I needn't tell you that the 168s have a minimum weight requirement of 168 kilos. Kyle Kavanagh improves his time. Now a 53.7 second time in front of Peter McBride, who jumps Mickey Brennan. 2/10 is now the gap, so Kyle Kavanagh really stretching his legs at the back of the pack. As the checkered flag falls, this will be the final showdown for the T4 Senior 168s in qualifying. We await to see who will take pole position. Kyle Kavanagh very much the favourite presently. As we see the 518 machine of Philip Godfrey, who's already come across the line. He'll do no better than 10th. Niall Hurst crosses the line to claim 6th position. So Kyle Kavanagh has done all that he can with a 56.35 second lap. A 53.635 second lap, excuse me. So Kyle Kavanagh will be on pole for the T4 Senior 168s. What a performance by Kavanagh, constantly improving, doing a tremendous job to pip Peter McBride by just under 0.4 of a second. And Mickey Brennan finished in 3rd in front of Colin Munnelly and Scott Garvey in 5th. And I can tell you the top 10 were covered by 1.3 seconds overall, so a very tight grid for the T4 Senior 168s. And that's definitely a competition worth looking forward to later on with their 2 heats and final. Tend to be a lot more measured, the Senior 168s, than many of the junior categories. The more senior drivers having a great knowledge of the fact that you leave it until the last lap before you make any moves. There also tends to be a lot more teamwork in the 168s than other categories as well. Drivers tend to work together in terms of bump drafting and trying to catch each other compared to other categories. I'm not sure if there's any drivers in the T4 Senior 168 category who are actually run by a team. I think almost all of the drivers, indeed I think all of the drivers are simply privateers who run their karts by themselves, and they do a tremendous job of it as well. Testament to the T4 series that a grid of privateers like the T4 Senior 168s can all be so close. It's testament to the equality of the machinery. Equality of machinery is one of the things that the T4 series does tremendously well through all of the categories, but especially the T4 Senior 168s. They really highlight just how easy it is to run these T4 karts. Even some drivers with very little experience able to pick up the spanners and understand what to do and how as we hear the whistle and we get ready for the IAME X30 seniors to take to the track for their qualifying session. Again, another 5 minutes on the clock. And it begins now, and out of the gates come all of our 13 IAME X30 senior drivers. Again, the smallest grid of X30 seniors that we've seen this year. 13 drivers, down from the best of 15 which we saw last time out in Cork, but set to be a tremendous grid of drivers producing tremendous racing all throughout this weekend. So we very much look forward to it as we wait for all of the drivers to come across the line to start their benchmark laps. Rocketing across the line, and it is Sean Hogan who crosses the line first. Some drivers to look out for. Sean Hogan definitely one to watch. Jack Buckley as well. Luke Agnew, who took victory on the track in Watergrass Hill before being penalised for a collision, but put in a dominant performance on the track, at least in the final. Jack Dillon and Ema Carey, also quick drivers. as we say, the rather small grid of X30 seniors this weekend, but they will throw up a tremendous amount of action for us nonetheless. As they all make their way round, we wait to see the leaders come across the line to see what the benchmark times are looking like, and they look like 48.8s. So Sean Hogan with a 48.893. Then Luke Agnew behind. I told you he'd be quick. Luke Agnew with a 48.9, so 61 100ths behind Sean Hogan. Then comes Jack Buckley in third, Jack Dillon in fourth, and Martin Foley in fifth position. Now that is just a benchmark time. The tyres should be up to temperature at this stage, so we can only expect those times to drop. Really a testament to the speed of these karts. This track, 1,052 metres in length, but it only takes less than 50 seconds to get around it in one of these X30 senior machines. X30 seniors revving to 16,000 RPM, and you can really hear that as they make their way past the commentary box. It is now Luke Agnew who takes the provisional pole position with a 47.4 second lap time. Now Sean Hogan trailing him by 55 100ths. So this seems to be a battle between Hogan and Agnew, provisionally at least. Buckley not far behind though, only 68 100ths behind Hogan, and only a little more than a tenth away from provisional pole. With 2 minutes left on the clock, things are starting to get down to business. Now the joy of these qualifying sessions being only 5 minutes is it really does test the drivers to see who gets up to speed the fastest. There isn't the opportunity to do an infinite number of laps, only really 4 or 5 in the case of the X30 seniors. The lower categories you'd be lucky to get even 3 or 4 laps. The X30 seniors having an easier time in terms of the number of laps, but these machines very physically demanding to drive. Lots of power being delivered to those rear wheels. Have to be a lot more careful on the throttle than the Tillotson T4s of these two-stroke machines, delivering power very, very efficiently, as we see Emma Carey drifting through turns 5 and 6 there. Now that isn't necessarily the fastest way to navigate that section of corners, but it is certainly very stylish for Emma Carey, who was involved in a few incidents in Watergrass Hill and be looking to bounce back. Was also disqualified from one of the heats, unfortunately, for working on the kart in the pre-grid area. So looking to regain form here in round 3. One of 2 female competitors in the X30 seniors, along with Clara O'Regan, the novice driver, who's currently sitting in 11th place on a 48.9 second lap time. Less than 30 seconds on the clock now. All of the drivers are going to be critically aware of that, thanks in no small part to the new screens that have been installed at Kiltorcan, which show warning flags, they show the checkered flag, they show the remaining race time. And now that timer will show 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3, 2 and 1 second. The checkered flag falls. Sean Hogan is still sitting in first place. Luke Agnew still behind him, but that gap's slightly larger now with 0.162 seconds. As some of the back markers make their way across the line, no improvement to be made by Clara O'Regan and Jack McGlinchey. Jack McGlinchey, that is. Forgive my my mispronunciation there. Sean Hogan comes across the line, no improvement to be made. Luke Agnew also comes across the line, as does Jack Buckley, so the top 3 settled, unless likes of Emma Carey can do something. It looks to be Sean Hogan who will be on pole position in front of Luke Agnew and Jack Buckley. Daniel Kavanagh sitting in 4th place, nothing more he can do. Jack Dillon no better than 6th, Martin Foley in 7th. We only wait for Emma Carey to cross the line, and that will be our Miami X30 senior grid settled. Try to see out of the commentary box where Emma Carey is on the circuit. Not able to identify her at this stage. Now the yellow flags are flying, but that's simply because the session has ended. We wait for Emma Carey to make her way to the line, although, like I say, I can't identify her, so it will be Sean Hogan in front of Luke Agnew and Jack Buckley. Then comes Daniel Kavanagh. Emma Carey will line up in 5th, in front of Jack Dillon in 6th, Martin Foley and Gavin O'Dwyer in 7th and 8th, in front of Rory O'Connor and Shane O'Neill rounding out the top 10. Then will come Clara O'Regan and Jack McGlinchey. There we go. Jack McGlinchey will round out the grid in 12th place. So there we have it for Miami X30 Senior. Next up, we will be, as I take a look at the timetable, I can tell you that the next event that we'll be having will be the Tillotson T4 Bambino Heat number 1. The Bambino is the only category racing this weekend that have a standing start. All the other classes with a rolling start, but the Bambinos, the decision was made to give them a standing start. They'll line up on the grid slightly before the start-finish line. They'll line up on the grid and then be moved into their positions. We saw a bit of confusion last time out in Watergrass Hill, where the drivers got mixed up as to which side of the grid they should be lined up on, with the pole position being given to the inside of the 2 tram lines in Watergrass Hill, but unfortunately our pole sitter lined up on the outside. So hopefully there won't be that level of confusion again this weekend, but provisions have been taken to ensure that that doesn't happen, with the competitors lining up a bit further back on the start-finish straight. All of the drivers taking this opportunity to get their tyres slightly warmed up, as Danny Clancy, that looks like, seems to catch the outside front corner of, was that Rianne Spratt? I'm thinking it looks like it might have been. So hopefully no damage done there for our T4 Bambino competitors. I'm going to run you through the grid. Unfortunately, last time out I didn't have access to the grids until the drivers actually started the race. So the Heat 1 grid for the Tillotson T4 Bambinos, it will be Robbie Lyons in front of Rianne Spratt. Then will come Danny Clancy in 3rd position, in front of Dara Fitzgibbon and Jackson Godfrey in 5th. Then in 6th will be Ollie Conneely, in front of Emerson Hannon, and Christian Adam will round out our grid in 8th place, as there's a spinner on the outside of turn number 4. Now that looks to be Christian Adam, I believe. It's certainly a black plate, so could that be Christian Adam? I think it might be. I'll take a look at his number as he comes round. It is the 108 machine. So the 108 of Christian Adam having a slight spin on the outside of turn 4, but managing to get going again, and that won't affect him too gravely, thanks to the standing start procedure of the Bambinos, as mentioned beforehand. You can see all the drivers being lined up there. Still a little bit of confusion as to where the drivers should line up. But one thing we can confirm, it will be Robbie Lyons on pole on that inside tram line in front of Rianne Spratt. Rianne Spratt, novice driver, but put in a tremendous performance in Watergrass Hill, very much able to mix it with the more experienced drivers. Novice drivers denoted by white numbers on a black plate denotes the fact that they're in the first 5 races of their karting career, and Rianne Spratt showing fantastic pace given his youth and, one might say, inexperience, but certainly the results wouldn't show that he is an inexperienced driver, rather that he's very much experienced. We see the green flag, and we are away now for the T4 Bambinos. Leading into turn 1, it looks like it's Robbie Lyons who gets away well. Rianne Spratt seemed to have a fairly challenging start there as they make their way round the first couple of corners, everyone getting away smoothly through turn 4. We wait to see the order, as there is a spinner there. There's 2 spinners that looks like Ollie Connolly perhaps, and also, no, excuse me, that is, I'll be able to bring you that information as they cross the line. It was, I can tell you, the 110 machine and also the 106 machine. So the 110 of Jackson Godfrey and also Emerson Hannon seem to have a spin there at turn number 4. Seems to be catching some of the Bambino drivers out, perhaps the heavy braking, and turning in, just unloading the rear axle and sending them around into a bit of a spin, but nothing they couldn't recover from, as we see the leaders going side by side along the start-finish straight. Who's going to come out on top? It is the 112 machine of Rian Spratt, who leads into the braking zone. So Spratt and Robbie Lyons really stretching away at the front of the field. Dara Fitzgibbon 4 seconds behind Spratt in front. Excuse me, 4 seconds behind Spratt, who's leading. Then comes Robbie Lyons of only 3.8 seconds up the road, but it seems to be 2 by 2 at the minute. You've got Spratt and Lyons at the front. Then comes Fitzgibbon and Clancy. Clancy leading in that battle, as we see the 108 machine of Christian Adam making his way across the line. Christian Adam, one of the novice drivers who made tremendous progress in terms of his lap time in Watergrass Hill. All the T4 Bambinos still managing to circulate without incident and managing to sort themselves out into nice groups as well. Now with a best lap time for Rian Spratt of 1 minute 15 so far, we can expect those times to reduce quite significantly as the leaders come up to the line. Those small engines still packing a punch as Rian Spratt continues to lead now by 0.4 of a second. T4 Bambinos with 105cc engines, minimum weight of 88 kilos, including the driver. And one of only a few categories, one of only 3 categories this weekend where trophies will be awarded for the top 5 drivers rather than just the top 3. That battle for third has settled down, with Danny Clancy now stretching out a significant gap over Dara Fitzgibbon behind. 2.8 seconds is now the gap, so Dara Fitzgibbon doesn't seem to have the pace to keep up with Clancy in front, although there does seem to be a battle towards the fringes of the mid-pack. That looks to be between Ollie Connolly and Emerson Hannon, perhaps, who are sorting themselves out into quite a neat battle there. And it is currently Ollie Connolly who leads in that battle. The 112 machine of Rian Spratt once again extending his lead out the front. Rian Spratt, as we mentioned, novice driver on paper, but showing tremendous experience. Now 6.8 seconds is the gap to Clancy behind. Clancy has capitalised on a mistake by Robbie Lyons, so Robbie Lyons having an incident there on that last lap that I didn't notice, as there's a cart stranded between turn 4 and sort of turn 7 there near Marshall Post 3. Not sure who that is. It is one of the novice drivers. Could it be Christian Adam, I think, as we see the driver walking back to the cart. It looks to be potentially Christian Adam. No yellow flags being shown though, so the track deemed as safe. As I believe that is the 108 machine of Christian Adam. Indeed it is. So difficult first heat for Adam, but still plenty of time to bounce back as he's walked to Marshall Post 3, where he will spend the remaining 1 minute and 15 seconds of this race, plus 1 lap, of course. Rian Spratt still leading the way in front of Danny Clancy and Robbie Lyons. Spratt makes his way across the line. Significant gap being built out to Danny Clancy behind. Clancy, no slouch, however, doing a tremendous job throughout this season. And we'll wait to see what he can do later on in the day. But for now, the name is Spratt at the top of the table. Dara Fitzgibbon doing a good job as well in third position, capitalising on potentially an issue for Robbie Lyons, who's now fallen down to 4th in the 111 machine. Jackson Godfrey putting in a very respectable effort in 5th in front of Emerson Hannon in 6th and Ollie Keneally in 7th. As I say, Christian Adam has been unfortunate in not being able to finish. As see the 104 machine seemingly there with a side pod that's jumping up and down. That's Dara Fitzgibbon making his way between turns 6 and 7. However, no other incidents for any of our competitors as they make their way around the lap. 1 minute 11 is the time from Rianne Spratt across the line, the best lap of the race thus far. Danny Clancy responds with a last lap time of 1 minute 13.3, so losing 2 seconds a lap on Rianne Spratt, who really has that T4 Bambino hooked up. As the clock strikes 0, the last lap board is shown, and we await Rianne Spratt to make his way up to the line, where he will claim the checkered flag in a tremendous performance. As we see a spin down at turn 1. Now that looks like Ollie Keneally involved with the 111 machine of Robbie Lyons. Indeed, excuse me, that's Robbie Lyons and Jackson Godfrey involved in an instance. So tremendously difficult heat for Robbie Lyons there. Falling right the way down the order. Difficult day for him in heat number 1. Unfortunate to see there is a yellow flag flying, but as they make their way up to the line, it will be Rianne Spratt who takes victory in heat number 1. Danny Clancy will come home in 2nd position in front of Dara Fitzgibbon in 3rd. Clancy makes his way up to the line, crosses it, and with a 11.6 second gap to Rianne Spratt finishing in 1st. Really does go to show the dominance of Spratt in that first race. As we see coming up to the line also our 2nd novice driver, Dara Fitzgibbon, putting in a very respectable showing. 20 seconds behind the leader, but in fairness, with the pace that was shown by Rianne Spratt, putting in a best lap, more than a second, or excuse me, 9/10 of a second better than any other competitor. It really does go to show the pace of young Rianne Spratt. Tremendous job from him to claim 1st position in his 1st heat of the day. We look forward to seeing what the T4 Bambinos can put together later on in the contest as well, so do stay tuned here on YouTube or Facebook for what is set to be a tremendous day of racing for the T4 Bambinos, the biggest Bambino grid that we've seen all year, with 8 drivers taking to the grid. Rianne Spratt coming out on top in front of Danny Clancy and Dara Fitzgibbon in 3rd. Emerson Hannon in 4th in front of Ollie Keneally in 5th. Then came Jackson Godfrey in 6th. Robbie Lyons unlucky to finish down in 7th place with incidents. And then Christian Adam was the only driver who didn't make it to the finish, classified down in 8th place. Well, a very good day of racing awaits us, and it has been kicked off by the T4 Bambinos. We look forward to seeing what they can do in their next heat, which will be coming up after the lunch break. Next up, though, we will be having the Tillotson T4 Minis. They always throw up a tremendous amount of competition. So T4 Bambinos concluded for the next while. Now I'm just interested because the gap from first to last in the T4 Bambinos in round 1 was, well, 23 seconds. In the T4 Bambino qualifying, however, today, now Christian Adam with an unrepresentative best time of 3 minutes 46. So the first to last amount of time, one might say, was 7.9 seconds. So that is, if my maths is correct, a 16-second improvement in terms of the field closing up from round 1 here at Kiltorcan to today. So incredible progress being made by the T4 Bambinos. and it has to be given to them, doing a tremendous job in their 105cc engined Bambino karts. As I'm trying to pull up the grid for the T4 Minis, which will be coming up next for their first heat of the day. So the Heat 1 grid for the T4 Minis, they're 7 minutes plus 1 lap heat. It will be Harley Brereton who's on pole. Jim McClarich Jr. lines up in second in front of Jack Fingleton in third. Then comes Billy Green and Max Cooling. Cooling lining up alongside Stephen Doyle in sixth. Then comes James Stafford Jr. and Cullen McMahon in eighth. Nathan Surinsky in front of Varenth Krishnakumar in 10th. Then comes Jay Murphy, Blake McRedmond, and then Usheen O'Sullivan in 13th place. So the T4 Minis rumble out onto the circuit for their first heat of the day. The T4 Minis, really a fantastic class to watch. If you're here at the track or on the live stream, we'll be bringing you all the action. Will be Harley Brereton in those PBR racing overalls with the yellow and red helmet, who leads the way. Watch out for Jim McClarich though, starting in second. He's had a very good season so far, currently leads the championship. Jim McClarich Jr. with the white helmet and orange overalls. Then Jack Fingleton in the black overalls and white helmet, and also another driver to watch out for. Has had a tremendous time of things thus far. And we'll be starting on the inside, which is beneficial for the run down into turn number 1. Very wide turn 1 here at Kiltorcan Raceway, which is very good if you get it wrong, but ultimately there is only one racing line through the corner, and that is the piece of real estate that will be fought over by Brereton and Clarich Jr. as they make their way down to the first corner, passing the cones which denote that formation must be taken up, and gingerly making their way down towards the start lights. And we wait for the green flag to be shown. As I look from the commentary box, 7 minutes is about to get underway. And it gets underway now, and it looks to be a very good start by Clarich Jr. Also getting involved, Billy Green trying to make moves, but almost getting shuffled out onto the gravel. And it is still Brereton who leads the way. Clarich Jr. retains second position. He's all over the back bumper of Brereton in front. Fingleton has had a good start. He remains in third. Billy Green still in fourth, so as you were for the top 4. Then it looks like Max Cooling has remained in 5th position. Indeed, Stephen Doyle also remains where he started. So very uneventful start for the T4 Minis, as there's a spinner on the entry to turn number 4. That looks to be a novice driver. I can't tell you quite who. It could be Usheen O'Sullivan or perhaps Nathan Surinsky. I'm starting to think that's the 217 machine. It is Nathan Surinsky, so Surinsky having a difficult time, and that is going to be him out of the race, I suspect. Indeed, he climbs out of the cart and not able to continue on. External assistance is forbidden, so that is race over for Surinsky, unfortunately. As we see the leaders all still packed in together, it is still Brereton who leads the way. Then Clarich Jr. getting a bit out of shape on the entry to turn 4. Then Jack Fingleton behind, Billy Green also behind him. Then Max Cooling in the white helmet with grey overalls. Stephen Doyle in the distinctive green overalls. Then comes James Stafford Jr. with those blue and red overalls. So very much as you were. This is a very calm mini race, it has to be said. Minis often throw up a large amount of drama, but also very mature racers at the same time. So possibly realising that there's no point doing anything too hectic before the final couple of laps. Although I see a move there being made. Clarich Jr. looking up the inside into the final corner. Can't make good of it, but he ducks his head down behind the wheel as they come up to the line, trying to minimise that drag coefficient. All over the back bumper of Brereton. Brereton with the fastest lap last time round of a 55.6 second lap. Making their way round once again. Still very mature driving, but a little mistake there from Brereton up the front. Ending up a bit wide on the exit of turn 4, and that nearly opened the door to Clarich Jr. However, nothing able to be capitalised on by Claridge Jr. 54.8 was the best time in qualifying. That was claimed by Brereton, who still leads. So we'll wait to see if that time has been bettered, as we see another driver stranded on the exit of turn number 4 there in the first sector. We'll bring you news on who that is. That looks to be the 204 machine. So the 204 of Blake McRedmond having a difficult time on lap 3 of this race so far. Difficult time then for Redmond, who's also out of the race. So 2 casualties thus far in terms of the mechanical aspect. Mercifully, no one has been hurt apart from the ambitions of doing well later on in the day, but still plenty of time to bounce back. Points being introduced this season for finishing in the heats as well, so that really spices up the championship and makes it a lot easier to compete, rather than just points, championship points being decided by your finishing position in the finals. They're also decided by your finishing position in the heats. So all these drivers also competing for championship points, even at this stage of the event. 40 points for first place, then 38 for second. Now that's different to the heats, which decide the grid places in the final. If you finish first in one of your heats, you get 0 points. So you get 40 points, but you also get 0 points. And the driver with the lowest points is ultimately placed on pole position, as Brereton, getting out of shape on the exit of 4, nearly opened the door to Claridge Jr. Claridge Jr. not able to do anything, or perhaps decides not to do anything at this stage of the race. It is Billy Green with the fastest lap, currently with a 54.8 second time. So only, well, 4 1,000ths of a second slower than the pole time by Brereton. Doing a tremendous job so far in matching the pace of the qualifying session. Making their way down the start-finish straight. It is still Brereton who leads from Claridge Jr. in those orange overalls. Then comes Jack Fingleton, still sitting behind in third with those black overalls and the white helmet. Billy Green sitting in fourth place with that yellow Senna helmet. Stephen Doyle having fallen down behind Max Cooling. That's the battle emerging behind. Max Cooling in the grey overalls, as I say. Stephen Doyle in the green overalls, doing a tremendous job, as there was a look up the inside there by Billy Green. And Brereton seems to be making an increasing number of mistakes, perhaps being pressured by Jim at Claridge. Billy Green also looking very hungry. Claridge looking for a move around the outside, perhaps. That'd be very brave to try and pull that move off at turn number 13. Making their way through the final corner. Still no moves to be made. All the drivers being very mature with less than 90 seconds on the clock, 1 minute and 22 seconds remaining. Everyone's still remaining line ahead. You could nearly cover them with a blanket there. 4 karts within about 6 kart lengths of each other, so a tremendous race emerging here as we see up the inside there Jack Fingleton trying to make a move on Jim at Claridge. That's not going to work through turn number 5, but it was brave from young Fingleton. As you see Jim at Claridge Jr. making shapes all over the back of Harley Brereton in front, really trying to pressure him into a mistake, but Brereton putting together a very mature drive at this stage of the event. Obviously only heat 1. Here comes Fingleton up the inside. Fingleton with a fantastic manoeuvre there, trying to take 2 positions in 1 corner as they approach lapped traffic. That is Oisin O'Sullivan, who promptly gets out of the way, but Fingleton making his way up into second place. Billy Green also making a move into the first corner, not able to pull it off, however. He has to slot back into 4th as we see a driver stranded on the apex of turn 5. Yellow flag is out, so that battle being paused for a few moments as we see a driver with a cart being pulled into the infield. That looks like the 216 machine, so the 216 of Jay Murphy having a difficult first heat at least. However, the green flag is back underway. Stephen Doyle has had a spin on the exit of turn 7, so that's his battle with Max Cooling all but over, and has now driven it into the gravel. So now Stephen Doyle also out of the race. Disastrous for young Doyle, having a torrid time of things and unfortunately driving himself out of the race on that occasion, perhaps trying to conduct a half spin and it just not going right. Going right into the gravel is about as right as it went for him, as we see the leaders once again battling. Claridge Jr. back up into second place. Fingleton demoted back down to third. Claridge Jr. looking for a move up the inside. Contact with Brereton, and that allows Fingleton to make his way back through into second. Billy Green still licking his lips as there's a full course yellow now, so full course yellow has been deployed. Not sure what that's for. That would be for Stephen Doyle, who's currently on the infield at turn 7, remaining in the kart. So not sure what the issue is there necessarily, but that battle has been paused and it will be a yellow flag finish. From what I can see, the timer has struck 0 and the checkered flag is being readied, and as they make their way across the line, Harley Brereton hangs on to it. Jack Fingleton in second. Billy Green made his way up to third at the last, and Claridge Jr. will be desperately disappointed with that 4th position, falling down to 4th right at the last, having sat in second for almost the entire race, momentarily falling down to 3rd and then falling down to 4th right at the last. Max Cooling naturally won out in his battle against Stephen Doyle, who had that spin and that unfortunate DNF. So your top 10 in reality, although there were 4 non-finishers. Harley Brereton won in front of Jack Fingleton and Billy Green in 3rd. Jim Claridge Jr. finished in 4th in front of Max Cooling in 5th. Then came James Stafford Jr. in 6th in front of Colin McMahon and Virenth Krishnakumar in 8th. Oisin O'Sullivan was your final finisher in 9th. And then your non-finishers, Stephen Doyle, Jay Murphy, Blake McRedmond and Natanas Surinsky, who unfortunately didn't make it past the 4th corner of the race. So the red flag being shown as the ambulance has been deployed to the track. That is presumably to check on Stephen Doyle. The red flag, a procedure that has to be followed when the ambulance is sent onto the track. Code Blue providing a tremendous ambulance and first aid service this weekend. Mercifully, we didn't have to see very many drivers go to be checked out in the ambulance last time out in Watergrass Hill. In this instance, the marshals deciding that the best course of action is for the ambulance to meet Stephen Doyle at his kart rather than Doyle going to the ambulance after the race. We trust that all will be well. We have some of the greatest medical teams in the world attending Motorsport Ireland events. The event couldn't go ahead without their work. The medical teams having a chat with Stephen Doyle, ensuring that he's okay. Now, I believe that neck restrictors are mandatory for the bambinos. I'm not sure, are they mandatory for the minis also? However, they are strongly recommended and many drivers do choose to wear them. Indeed, rib protectors are also, I'm not sure if they're mandated, they are strongly recommended. And I trust that Stephen Doyle has been well equipped with his safety wear, and I can tell you Stephen Doyle is now out of his kart and is walking with the medical crew to the ambulance. And they'll deliver Doyle back to the pit lane, back to Parc Ferme, as the recovery teams go and collect the 4 stricken karts. All of our competitors, Surinsky, McRedmond, Murphy and Doyle, will make their way by various means back to the pit lane, and we await the commencement therefore of the IAME X30 cadets, who will be slightly postponed by this delay, but a necessary delay to collect the karts and also to ensure the well-being of Stephen Doyle. The ambulance moving away from the scene now with Stephen Doyle inside. As we say, he did walk to the ambulance under his own power, and he seemed to be well enough to be frustrated with his ending up in the gravel after his collision. So we trust very much a procedural matter and not one of serious injury for Stephen Doyle. Once again, big thank you to Code Blue, who provide the ambulances for this event. Any motorsport event cannot go ahead without an ambulance present, so we're very grateful for their attendance and their prompt response to the scene of this incident as they make their way through what is turns 8 and 9, the fateful section of corners that ultimately ended Stephen Doyle's race. We will be getting underway in but a few moments' time once these final couple of carts have been delivered back to the pit lane. We'll have the pleasure of hearing those two-stroke Iami Gazelle engines, 60 cc's each, being powered up into life. The Iami cadets using the same Maxxis T-Max tyres as the T4 category. All other X30 categories, that being the juniors and the seniors, X30 junior and X30 senior using Comet K3 tyres. So a slight overlap with the T4 category for the Iami cadets. And the Iami cadets with a lower cc engine, but those two-stroke machines definitely go very quickly indeed, so cc's can be deceptive. Those two-stroke powered Iami Gazelle engines really powering these 8 to 12-year-olds along at a rate of knots. And for their 7 minutes and 1 lap heat, I can tell you as I pull up the grid who it will be on pole position, or at least I would be able to. Unfortunately, the live timing doesn't appear to show. Oh yes, it does. There we go. So the Heat 1 grid for the Iami cadets, it will be Senan McLaughlin who is on pole after a strong showing in qualifying and indeed last time out in Watergrass Hill. Then will come Sophie Campbell on the outside in position 2. Then comes Ian Carey and Danny Dempsey in front of Danny Murphy and Jack Harney in 6th. 7th will be Ethan Woods in front of Charlie Blair in 8th. 9th will be Mikey Kelly in front of Bobby Connolly in 10th. Ada O'Brien lines up in 11th in front of Corey Lyons. Then in 12th, Corey Lyons in 12th, and then in 13th, Oliver Meredith in front of Evan McLaughlin in 14th. Then will come Jaden McElhenney in 15th in front of Oscar Miller. Ethan Robinson in 17th in front of Ben LaHoo in 18th. 19th will be Harry Ty Lee in front of Matea Debaya. And then 21st will be Liam Buckley with Janis Dobrin lining up beside him. The final 3 drivers are Danny Mulvey and Mikolas Ujiskus in front of Arthur Kelly, who will line up in the final grid position of 25th. I have tried to improve my pronunciation of Mikolas Ujiskus from last time out, where unfortunately, and we see significant spinning happening between turns 5 and 6. Now, a number of drivers involved in that. They have until just after Marshall Post 4, which is just before the final corner, to get back into position. After that point, there is no overtaking allowed, so only a few corners. Indeed, from where they are currently, only, 3 corners to get back into position. We see them trying to do that fairly promptly, although it will be a slight challenge for them. Seems to be all orderly now, however, as they make their way past the cones, which denote you must be in position and in your tram lines. Pole position on the inside. As we head up to the lights, we wait for them to go green. And we go racing in the Iami cadets, and it is Senan McLaughlin who leads down into turn number 1, although he loses out, however. That looks like Ian Carey, who has jumped him up the inside. So a fantastic start there from Ian Carey. As I say, I believe that is. Looks like it could be Sophie Campbell has fallen down to 3rd place. Certainly Senan McLaughlin falling down to 2nd as they all make their way through fairly uneventfully. Someone going side by side with Evan McLaughlin I can see through turn number 7. But a very clean start at this stage of the contest. So the Miami Cadets, as we see Senna McLaughlin going for a move up the inside there. Tremendous stuff from Senna McLaughlin, retaking that position up the inside as they make their way down the start-finish straight. I'll be able to update you of the order as they come across the line. It is Senna McLaughlin. Sophie Campbell was the one with the good start, jumping up into first position. Then comes Danny Dempsey in third. So Danny Dempsey with a good start, gaining a position. Danny Murphy also gaining a position as they make their way through the first sector. Some good battling emerging on the fringes of the top 10 also. But line astern, the two leaders, McLaughlin and Campbell. Campbell, the Northern Irish woman, doing a tremendous job off the start, being taken back by Senna McLaughlin. And they make their way round the final couple of corners. McLaughlin has fallen back to second once again, so a good battle emerging at the front straight away as they make their way across the start-finish. McLaughlin under pressure once again from Sophie Campbell. It is Danny Dempsey who has now jumped 2 positions to lead this race. So Danny Dempsey with a tremendous start to the race so far in that sort of luminous yellow coloured kart. Sophie Campbell in that blue kart with McLaughlin behind in the orange overalls. And then Danny Murphy in the T-Sport machine behind them. Ian Carey in 6th. Excuse me, Ian Carey in 5th. Oliver Meredith is in 6th as battling emerges up and down the field. Tremendous action so far with only 2 laps completed. They're on their 3rd lap now, making their way down to the start-finish. It will still be Danny Dempsey who leads the way across the line. Senna McLaughlin back up to 2nd place, however, still on the charge. Sophie Campbell falls back down to 3rd, although Campbell not done quite yet. Into the braking zone of 4, very close to the back of McLaughlin behind. As it looks like Ian Carey has made his way up into 4th on that last lap. So Carey really on the charge now. Danny Murphy down to 5th. .53.5 is the best time of the race so far. So a very strong pace from the leaders. Danny Dempsey with the fastest lap at this stage of the race. 53.3 was the best time in qualifying, so still only 2/10 off the pole time. That time set by Senna McLaughlin. However, Ian Carey now takes the fastest lap and betters the pole time by 1/10.5. So very well done to Ian Carey, who's really on the charge in 4th place. Danny Dempsey still leading the way though. Senna McLaughlin sitting happily for the moment in 2nd position in front of Sophie Campbell. Campbell with a good showing last time out, to my knowledge as well. So we really look forward to seeing what this battle throws up as they make their way through the final section of corners. As we see side by side the leaders now, as McLaughlin takes the lead back once again from Danny Dempsey, making their way along the start-finish straight. Dempsey isn't done yet. He looks to the inside. Dempsey up the inside, and he seems to have made that move stick. Indeed, he has. Sophie Campbell's going to be licking her lips and thinking, what can I get from this? The two leaders battling away. Ian Carey also going to be thinking, there's something in this for me if I play my cards right. With 2 minutes and 12 seconds left on the clock, it is starting to get down to crunch time. Danny Dempsey making moves early on. Senna McLaughlin will have to sit behind for another few corners before an overtaking opportunity presents itself. Senna McLaughlin having won the first heat last time out in Watergrass Hill. Danny Dempsey finished in 2nd, but did take the fastest lap as we see them going side by side again. McLaughlin retakes the lead. Danny Dempsey back down to 2nd place, making their way down the start-finish straight once again. It's amazing. I look down at my notes, I look back up, and they're halfway around the lap. Danny Dempsey retakes the lead once again, battling all the way up and down the field. Sophie Campbell has got up to 3rd as well. Got up to 2nd, excuse me, as well. McLaughlin falling down to third place. However, now bumping Danny Dempsey right the way down. Campbell takes the lead. Dempsey down to second. He's being attacked by Senan McLaughlin, who's opened the door to Ian Carey. Ian Carey really getting in the mix now. Can't make good of it. McLaughlin up the inside of Dempsey through turn number 9. So a real battle emerging here at the front of this IAME Cadet Heat number 1. And this is really going to play into the hands of Sophie Campbell, who's currently leading the way. So very good job so far by Sophie Campbell to get ahead when it counted, although under attack now from Danny Dempsey. Dempsey really with the pace to stay up the front, it seems, really intent on taking that first position, and does so with gusto. Senan McLaughlin now looking for an opportunity to retake Sophie Campbell for second. Not able to make anything of it. Ian Carey has really closed up, and this battle has really brought Danny Murphy into the fray as well, in that green and black cart with the orange helmet behind. And indeed Oliver Meredith could get involved in this fight fairly soon as well. Also, however, with only 11 seconds left on the clock, it does look like the next lap will be the last. Oliver Meredith taking pole position in timed qualifying in round 1 round this circuit. So definitely one to watch as they make their way down the start-finish straight. It is still Danny Dempsey as we see Senan McLaughlin, who has lost third position. He's now down to 4th and battling with Danny Murphy. So McLaughlin having a hard time on that last lap and now falling into the clutches of Murphy and Meredith behind. This is great news though for Ian Carey, who's now made his way up to 4th in that red and black kart with the matching overalls and helmet. But as this is the last lap, it looks like it will be Danny Dempsey who has stretched out a 4/10 of a second gap. Looks like Dempsey is going to be the one to take heat number 1, barring a calamity. But Ian Carey getting very close to the back of Campbell through turn number 11. So that'll be interesting to see the run up to the line in that eventuality. Carey and Campbell really all over each other here on the final straight. It will be Danny Dempsey who takes victory. Who will claim second position? It will be Sophie Campbell in front of Ian Carey. Senan McLaughlin losing out, finishing down in 4th position in front of Danny Murphy in 5th, Oliver Meredith in 6th, Jack Harney in 7th, Bobby Connolly in 8th, Ada O'Brien in 9th in front of Ethan Woods, who rounds out the top 10. Then comes Charlie Blair and Oscar Miller in 12th in front of Corey Lyons and Ethan Robinson in 14th. Mikey Kelly finished in 15th with Evan McLaughlin in 16th. Jaden McEnany in 17th in front of Ben LaHoo. Liam Buckley and Janusz Doblin rounding out the top 20. Then came Matej Dabaya in front of Mikolas Ugiskus. And then came Harry Ty Lee, with our only non-finisher being Danny Mulvey, who unfortunately had to pull up between turns 9 and 10 with a technical issue. But a tremendous effort from Danny Mulvey nonetheless. Danny Mulvey with difficult time, having started, as I look to the grid, let's see where Danny Murphy started, or Danny Mulvey, excuse me, started in 23rd position, so a difficult time from Mulvey, and it only got more difficult as he retired on lap 1. There's still all to play for in the second heat and the final, as we now prepare for our T4 Junior heat number 1. The T4 Juniors always throw up a tremendous amount of action. As we can see, the recovery vehicle, the Bobcat, I believe it's called, making its way round the track to recover the stricken cart of Danny Mulvey. The 628 machine. And once that cart is retrieved back to the pits, we'll be getting underway for the T4 Juniors. The Juniors providing us with an 8-minute plus 1 lap heat. The first 8-minute heat. And that status is shared with the X30 Juniors and also the senior categories. of each of the T4 and IAME classes. As we see that cart of Danny Mulvey being loaded onto the Bobcat, he takes his position this time in the passenger seat and will make his way back to the pits, looking quite dejected at the performance of that race, having started on the second to last row of the grid and only making it a lap into his first heat before having to retire. Very disappointing first heat for Danny Mulvey, but nonetheless he will be back for more in heat number 2, as we see the Bobcat pulling up at Marshall point number 5 to possibly secure the kart even further. Although it remains to be seen what necessarily is happening there. Marshall's being provided by Kiltorcan Raceway and also Mondello. Many volunteers, of course, from the Wexford Motor Club, who are ultimately the ones running this event. Indeed, multiple clubs send volunteers to each event, and I think the Bobcat may have got stuck there for a second. However, it is back on the move now and will make its way across the start-finish line. Yes, I can see the Marshall having to push the Bobcat, so perhaps not the same off-road capabilities with the cart on the back as it does when it's empty, but nonetheless a tremendous amount of work being put in by our marshals, even at this early stage in the race weekend, as we prepare for the T4 Juniors to take to the track in but a few seconds' time. We'll bring you the grid when we can. The T4 Junior Heat 1 grid, I can tell you, it will be Eddie Summers Jr. who lines up on pole in front of Joey Carney in second. Ben O'Keefe will line up in third in front of Billy Clancy and Wesley Brereton in fifth. Alongside Brereton will be Sean Dunnigan in sixth, in front of Joey Carnes and Robert Greenbolster on row 4. Row 5 is occupied by Pierre Carnett, the Frenchman, in front of Taman Kajurek in 10th. Just missing out on the top 10 is row 6 of Samuel Harris and Spencer Casey in front of Emily Stafford and Owen McNamara. Then comes Adrian Guile in front of Ava McMahon, Fionn English and Richard Boydescu. Then row 10, Morgan Moore in front of Ian Kajorek. Then comes Callum McIntyre in 21st in front of Tiernan O'Connor in 22nd. Then our final 2 rows of the grid in 23rd place, Saoirse McMahon in front of James King. Then Jack Keneally in front of Ava Moore. So it will be Eddie Summers Jr. who leads the charge to the red lights. Summers Jr. with a fantastic performance in T4 Junior over the last number of events. And that is evidenced by the fact that he put in such a strong lap time in qualifying. 53.8 second lap, just beating Joey Carney to pole position by just under a tenth of a second. Ben O'Keefe then a further 1.5 tenths back from Carney. However, that may be no bad thing. The inside line is very beneficial around here, as indeed it is at many circuits, as they make their way down to the start lights for their rolling start. The T4 Juniors prepare to get underway. The lights go out and we go racing, and it looks to be a very good start by Joey Carney around the outside. Can he hold it? He's still there on the outside of Eddie Summers Jr., excuse me, but falling down the order into, well, second position. So where he started for Joey Carney, as we see all of the drivers managing to make their way through more or less without incident, although there is a novice who's been tagged there. Looks like Saoirse McMahon might be involved in that as well, perhaps. As we'll wait to see who that is. That looks like the 272 machine. Well, it wouldn't be the 272 machine because the designation for the junior karts is 3. So I'll bring you news as to who those 2 drivers were as they cross the line. Difficult time down the back of the pack, but up at the front, it is still as you were, it seems. They come up to the line to finish their first lap. It is still Summers Jr. who leads. Then Joey Carney still in second. So top 3 as you were. Ben O'Keefe remains in third place. I'll bring you news as to who was involved in those couple of incidents as they come across the line. The 331 machine of James King with a displaced front nacelle panel. Now, could that be a technical flag that he'll be receiving for that after some contact? That remains to be seen. I'll tell you, it was Fionn English who was also involved in that collision, one of the novice drivers. So 2 novice drivers, Fionn English and the 322 machine, unfortunate to be involved in contact at turn 4 on the opening lap. We cast our eyes back to the front of the field. Still, all the drivers very much line astern at this stage of the race. The juniors with sense enough to realise that there's no prizes until the checkered flag, so you're best to just stretch away as much as is possible at the opening stages of the race. Eddie Summers Jr. as they cross the line with 2.5 tenths to Joey Carney behind him. Joey Carney with a further 2.2 tenths, I suppose. Oh, and there's a spinner there for a PBR kart. That's the 305 machine. So the 305 there having a difficult time. That looks like, I can't see a 305 on my timing, but it was a PBR racing kart. So a difficult time for PBR in this race, it seems. As I can see there on the replay of the live stream, it looks like it might have been the 315. So potentially Ava McMahon, according to my timing screens, although I don't think she's run by PBR. Top 3 still as you were. Try to bring you news as to there's the technical flag for the 331 machine indeed. So James King being ordered to the pit lane after that front nacelle panel being displaced as a result of that contact on lap 1. Technical flag being waved, and that will unfortunately be race over for James King, who now James King potentially not realising that he's being called in there, continuing around for another lap. So if he doesn't realise that there's the technical flag being given to him, then naturally he is going to continue on, but there could be issues with the stewards in that event. There could be a brief talking to for James King, and that front nacelle very visibly displaced, so potentially James King just not realising that he is the number 331. As they make their way across the line, however, it is still Summers Jr. who leads, now with an increasing gap over Joey Carney, who has set the fastest lap, however. Oh no, excuse me, that gap is closing. I was looking at the wrong battle. So Joey Carney really laying down the gauntlet and showing Summers Jr. in front what he can do. However, that gap to Ben O'Keefe is extending. The 311 machine, that looks like, of Samuel Harris is also heading up a significant train. So potentially a big battle emerging on the fringes of the top 10 in the midfield. The leaders make their way through the final corner with 3.5 minutes left on the clock. They make their way up to the line. Quick check over the shoulder for Summers Jr. down into turn 1. No improvement on that lap for Joey Carney. 5/1000ths of a second from his best lap. Still holds the fastest lap of the race so far. As we can see, all the drivers really settling down into a nice rhythm at this stage. As that looks like potentially Emily Stafford, who's heading up a fairly hefty train. That looks like the 313. No, it is Robert Greenbolster, it appears. So Robert Greenbolster, indeed it is, who's heading up a significant train that seems to stretch all the way back to, well, that looks like Adrian Guile down in 17th place. So potentially a 7-kart train there in the midfield, which is not unique to the T4s, nor is it unique to karting, with many competitive racing series across the nation and across the island. However, you won't find it better value for money than the T4s as they all make their way down into turn number 1. Still no change up at the front. The leaders still trying to break away from each other. It is very much 2 by 1 by 1 by 2 by 2, all the way down to position number 8, Emily Stafford, with 0.4 of a second to Pierre Carnett in front. Pierre Carnett running on a novice plate, the lead novice so far in the race, but doing very competitive times. His last lap was a 53.9, which was, well, faster than Stafford behind, and faster than Joey Carnes in front, as Eddie Summers Jr. has now taken the fastest lap of the race. And this battle up the front really appears to be where the action will take place, making their way through the first section of corners. It is set to be a big battle when it finally takes place, although that's what we're waiting for currently. Eddie Summers Jr. took victory here in the first heat in round 1. He also took victory in the final with the fastest lap around this circuit. Then last time out, as we see a move there for the lead. I can hear the cheering from beside me. That seems like the OHR team. Indeed it is, as we see side by side on the exit of the final corner, all the way down to turn 1. It is now Joey Carney who leads the OHR boys, celebrating on the track side beside me. Carney with a fantastic manoeuvre. Summers Jr. slots in behind. Still plenty of distance to Ben O'Keefe. Actually, no, there isn't. This has really closed up. So it is now a battle of 4 karts, as we see the 318 machine, that is, of Ava Moore getting out of the way of the leaders. Doing so very effectively, as we can see. Still battling. And I think the OHR team beside me are actually giving a better commentary than I am, although it does seem to just be very much shouting, "Go on, boy, go on, boy," at this stage of the race. So they will not stop. They're the most passionate crowd you could ever meet in your life, I swear. Down to turn 1 they come, down to the start-finish line. It is still Joey Carney as they cross the line for the last lap. Carney leads the way. Summers Jr. still in second as they cross the line. Ben O'Keefe in third, with Billy Clancy having fallen away. Now there's a 4-second gap there now, so a difficult time for Billy Clancy. He's sort of out of the running for this battle for the top 3. It is Joey Carney who leads the way for OHR. Eddie Summers Jr. sitting behind will be looking to make back that position, making their way through turn number 11, up to turn 12. Any moves to be made? No, not really. Ben O'Keefe sort of going for a switchback manoeuvre. Can he make it stick? O'Keefe trying to go up the inside through the final corner. Will he be able to make it stick? He appears to. It's going to be a drag race to the line. It will be Joey Carney who comes across the line to win heat number 1. Eddie Summers Jr. just edges out Ben O'Keefe for second position. So Ben O'Keefe having to settle for third, losing that drag race to the line. Billy Clancy finished in 4th, in front of Sean Dunnigan in 5th. Joey Carnes in 6th, in front of Pierre Carnett and Emily Stafford in 7th and 8th, respectively. Then came Robert Greenbolster in 9th, in front of Saoirse McMahon in 10th. Spencer Casey finished in 11th, in front of Samuel Harris and Wesley Brereton in 13th. Ava Moore finished in 14th, in front of Owen McNamara and Adrian Guile in 16th. Then came Taman Kajorek in 17th, in front of Morgan Moore and Richard Boyrescu, with Ian Kajorek rounding out the top 20. 21st was occupied by Tiernan O'Connor in front of Callum McIntyre in 22nd. Fiona English finished in 23rd place in front of Jack Keneally, and then Ava Moore, our final finisher, with James King failing to make the finish after that technical flag and having a difficult time of things, but nonetheless putting in a good effort in spite of the technical flag. And I'm sure we could have seen better from him if it wasn't for his damage to the front fairing. James King, having started in 24th position, was having a good showing until that damage ruled him out, but he will be back for more in heat number 2. So Eddie Summers Jr. not able to capitalise on that pole position. Joey Carney jumping from 2nd to 1st from qualifying to the end of heat number 1, doing a fantastic job, as the Oran Henry Racing crew beside us certainly seemed to think, and indeed they were right. It was a fantastic performance by Joey Carney. And next up we await the IAMI X30 Juniors for their 8 minutes plus 1 lap heat. And what a competition that is set to be, with 23 drivers on the grid. Adam Holmes will be the one leading them down towards the lights. Alongside him will be Tyg Buckley in 2nd place, in front of Ben McLaughlin in 3rd, and then Jamie English in 4th. Aaron Murphy rounds out the top 5. He's alongside Charlie Gardner in 6th position on row 3. Then comes Michaela Hart, who's in form after round 2 in Watergrass Hill. Then comes Ben Connolly in front of Chad Leman and John Foley Jr. rounding out the top 10. Then comes Eric Gilsenan in 11th in front of Martin Shannon in 12th. Zach Burke lines up in 13th alongside James Nolan in 14th. Charlie Cosgrove starts 15th in front of Jack Crockwell and Jamie Mulvey in 17th alongside Jack Peters in position number 18. The final 2 of the top 20 are Adam Blaney in 19th and then Joel Murphy in 20th. Row 11 is occupied by Declan Purvis and Jack McLaughlin, with Mark Fleming being your final driver in 23rd place, and rounding out the grid for the IAME X30 Junior Heat number 1. So tremendous racing being seen thus far for this event. You can see there the timing screen, which has been newly installed for this race at Kiltorcan. Very effective piece of equipment, showing flags, showing the race time remaining, showing the countdown for the next session. And you can see there on the board the 8 minutes, which denotes the 8-minute heat plus 1 lap that the IAME X30 Juniors are about to take part in. And just some final preparations being made, final few words being had. Obviously no work allowed to be done on the karts in the pre-grid area. You can't even apply spray to them, as Ema Carey so unfortunately found out last time out in Watergrass Hill. So absolutely no work allowed to be conducted, apart from, as far as I know, to check tyre pressures. That is the only work that is permitted, and even then you're only allowed to do that with a hand gauge. So we wait for the X30 Juniors to fire up those 2-stroke engines. 125cc, those IAME X30 engines. Again, revving to 16,000 RPM. The only difference between them and the seniors is a 22.7mm exhaust restrictor, as is common with classes that have the same engine, where juniors and seniors share the same equipment. The juniors are often limited. It's the same story with the T4 juniors. Same engine as the seniors, however a restriction on the rev limiter. And that does lead to much more competitive times, because ultimately if that wasn't the case, then you would have the juniors going amazingly quickly while the seniors sort of lagged behind. But it's all designed to sort of close up the pack a little bit and keep everything about equal. The juniors, they also get I believe they have to have 2 sets of wets per event. However, I don't think there's going to be an awful lot of use for that at this stage, with the sun beating down nicely on this May the 4th. It is, as far as I know, International Star Wars Day today as well, so May the 4th be with you all, as we hear the whistle denoting that the engines are about to be fired up. 12 degrees here in Kiltorcan, according to my phone weather, at least, with an 8% chance of rain and an 11km/h wind. So warming up nicely from where it was this morning, with highs of 15 degrees expected. So long as the sun is beating down on that tarmac, those tyres are going to warm up nice and quickly, although a little bit of contact there between the 2 of the drivers towards the tail end of the grid. And just a bit of weaving to get temperature into the tyres, some miscommunication and a spin there for one of the drivers. Not entirely sure who that is. It is one of the novice racers, towards the tail end of the pack. Not entirely sure who that is. It doesn't show which drivers are novices on the grid. Part of me wants to say Jack Peters, but I won't be making assertions until I can tell you for sure. And realistically, the battling is going to be so intense that it is going to be very difficult for me to relay that information for you. As well, I mean, that's a rather lax interpretation of you have to be in the tram lines before the... And we are going round again, and understandably so, because, well, you'll forgive me, but that was very poorly conducted as far as start procedures go. People ducking out of the tram lines, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a word with the COC over that, because it seemed like drivers intentionally pulling out of the tram lines there on the way up to the line, which is a strategy which isn't allowed at all. So everyone goes around, has another lap to warm up their tyres. Now, I would love to tell you who that was who had the spin on the first warm-up lap, but unfortunately the number on that kart, I can tell you it is a rookie, and the number on that kart is so small that I unfortunately can't read it from my commentary position here trackside. If Senan were to zoom in on the number, I might be able to see it, but unfortunately he has no way of knowing which kart I'm on about. Nevertheless, they make their way around turn number 13 for the second warm-up lap. We wait to see everyone get into the appropriate tram lines. Everyone cancels their weaving at this stage, and still the order seems to be rather interesting, shall we say. But we come up to the line. Will we go racing? Yes, we will. Oh, and straight away, hard to the outside goes Adam Holmes. Almost lost control of the kart there as he made his way up to turn number 1, but holds the lead nonetheless. Tig Buckley appears to have remained in second. Everyone making their way reasonably cleanly through the first set of corners. That is the 712 machine, so excuse me, Ben McLaughlin getting up into second place. Tig Buckley falling down to third. So good start by McLaughlin in that green helmet, currently sitting in second place. Tig Buckley falling from second to third, so very aggressive start there by Adam Holmes to retain the lead. Obviously wanting to claim that wide line on the entry to turn 1, and doing so very, very aggressively, it has to be said. The noise across the line is absolutely beautiful. Adam Holmes leads still. Ben McLaughlin remains in second. Then comes Tig Buckley and Jamie English. Aaron Murphy in fifth. Michaela Hart gaining 1 position on the opening lap, as did Ben Connolly, who currently sits in 7th place. Charlie Gardner down 2 positions in front of Chad Leman and Eric Gilsenan, who currently sits in 10th, having jumped John Foley Jr. Everyone's settling down now into a rhythm. Nothing particularly exciting, one might say, in terms of moves for position. Although I can tell you something, that being on the inside of one of these karts, being but a few inches above the ground, rocketing along at easily 90 kilometers an hour down into turn 1 is very exciting, as we see Buckley going for a move up the inside of Ben McLaughlin. Has he pulled it off? Yes, he has. Buckley claiming the position off McLaughlin. You can see Buckley sitting notably higher in the kart than McLaughlin, with McLaughlin's green helmet, excuse me, green and blue. The sun glinting off the visors as they make their way through turn number 5 and now into the second sector. So McLaughlin and Buckley seem to be engaged in a battle very early on in this race, making their way up through the final corner, down onto the start-finish straight. Let's see the gap that Holmes has as he crosses the line. It's 0.7 of a second. Jamie English with the fastest lap of a 47.7. So, very fast times by Jamie English, who's closing up rapidly to the back of McLaughlin, who now sits in third. Adam Holmes still leading the way. However, that gap does appear to be closing through the first sector. So plenty of action still remaining, as we still have 5 minutes left on the clock, plus 1 lap for this IAME X30 Junior Heat number 1, and a tremendous category it is as well. The X30 Juniors always put in a tremendous showing, as there's still no change up the front and indeed towards the rear of the pack. Still not a huge amount of action, some passes for position, although I can't identify who, unfortunately, at this stage of the race. I can tell you that the running order, however, is Holmes from Buckley from McLaughlin, and then in 4th English, then Murphy, then Hart, Connolly, Gardiner, Gilsenan and Chandler Mann making his way up to 10th position. The IAME X30 Juniors, it was Tyg Buckley who won heat number 1 when we were here last for round 1. Indeed, Tyg Buckley took a clean sweep in round 2. So Tyg Buckley coming into this event with a clean sweep in Watergrass Hill, currently sitting in 2nd with a lot of work to do to catch up to Adam Holmes. Adam Holmes had a rather quiet time in Watergrass Hill. He finished 3rd in the first heat, 2nd in the second heat, and then he didn't even finish in the top 5 for the final. So coming into this with a score to settle, Adam Holmes, and he seems to be settling it quite well with the fastest lap of 47.5. That is a 1/10 of a second quicker than Tyg Buckley's best lap, and he appears to remain to stretch out the gap. A 1 second gap now emerging, as we see that may have been Michaela Hart going side by side with Aaron Murphy. So Murphy on the prowl as well, looking at the back of that pink and white machine. And that could be another battle that we should watch out for later on in the race. That is Hart, Murphy, then Connolly and Gardiner. 2 minutes and 38 seconds on the clock now, and still no action up the front. Everyone trying to break away, especially Adam Holmes. He's going to be critically aware of the battling that's going to take place in that last lap. He's Tyg Buckley, a very quick driver who is closing that gap down. It's now 8/10 as they cross the line that time, so 2/10 faster on that lap for Tyg Buckley. Ben McLaughlin has fallen back slightly off the back of Buckley. Jamie English is going to be his primary threat in that Tony Kart machine. Still some battling going on towards the back of the pack. Indeed, I believe it's the last 2 runners there of the 723 machine. That is Adam Blaney battling with Martin Shannon towards the back of the pack, having a tremendous battle with each other, which is great to see. Battles not just up the front, but down the back as well. I can confirm that I was right in my assertion of it being Jack Peters who spun on the formation lap. So Jack Peters running down towards the back of the pack. As we see Michaela Hart, that is, going side by side into turn number 1. I believe it's Michaela Hart in any case. No, excuse me, it's not Michaela Hart. Now, who is that we're focusing on as they make their way through turn number 4 and 5? It's a tremendous move up the inside in any case for the, looks like the 728 machine I saw briefly. Is that Ben Connolly going up the inside of Aaron Murphy, I wonder? As the leaders all make their way down the start-finish straight once again. Ben McLaughlin with a closing gap to Jamie English behind, less than 2/10 of a second now. So he is going to have to watch out. The top 3 really spacing themselves out. It's really a battle for 3rd more than a battle for 1st at this stage. Everyone making their way down through the first sector. It really is tremendous to hear these 2-stroke machines screaming past the commentary position. A wonderful sound they make as well. As I can tell you, it is the 720 machine that is battling. Now that says it was James Nolan, although I don't suspect that that is the case. So I'm not sure what that battle was that we were looking at a lap ago. As we see the last lap board being put out. The last lap for Adam Holmes and co. Making their way through the first sector. All under control as it has been from the start for Adam Holmes. Holding the best lap of 47.5. Doing a tremendous job thus far. And as he makes his way around the final sector, the final two corners pose no challenge for Adam Holmes, who will come up to the line and take victory in the first heat. Holmes wins it in front of Tyg Buckley, who chased him down to within half a second, but was not able to take the first place. Ben McLaughlin finished in third in front of Jamie English, who he held off. Michaela Hart recovered up to fifth in front of Aaron Murphy and Charlie Gardiner. Then came Ben Connolly in eighth in front of Eric Gilsenan in ninth and Joel Murphy in 10th place. John Foley Jr. finished in 11th in front of Chad Laman and Declan Purvis in 13th. Charlie Cosgrove finished in 14th in front of Zach Burke and James Nolan. Then came Jamie Mulvey in front of Jack Crowell, Martin Shannon and Adam Blaney rounded out the top 20, with Jack Peters coming home in 21st position to round out your finishers. Everyone making it to the flag in X30 Juniors, which is tremendous to see. It means no clean-up operation for the marshals. It means everyone will make their way back to the scrutineering area under their own power as we prepare for the Tillotson T4 senior category to get underway. Only 3 more heats left until our lunch break. And then after that, we will have another 16 races for you by my calculations. The final set of heats and then the finals. So a tremendous amount of action already displayed in this round 3 of the Tillotson Ireland Karting Championship here at Kiltorcan Raceway, as organised by the Wexford Motor Club. We're very grateful for their efforts in organising this race weekend even, including the testing yesterday, which, having spoken to drivers up and down the field, they seem to be very content with the performance yesterday. Now, clicking on the T4 Senior grid number 1, there we go. I must have misclicked because for some reason I was getting the Junior X30 grid once again. But I can tell you that for the T4 Senior grid, this 8 minutes plus 1 lap heat, once again it will be Aaron Coogan who will lead us down towards the lights. Alongside him will be Robert Butler in that distinctive blue helmet. Jack Mackenzie Smith, a very fast driver who must be watched out for, not because he's a danger obviously, but he's just exceptionally quick. He starts in third in front of Josh Allen in fourth. Tyler Brereton for PBR starts in fifth in front of Keith Burke and Yuri Bechtold in seventh. Then comes Luke Palmer and Luke Kavanagh in front of Warren Russell, who rounds out the top 10. Then comes Adam Butler and Brian Wilson in 11th and 12th in front of Peter Brett and Max O'Neill. Then Jake Brunel, Jim Toomey, Elijah Mooney, Ollie Clark, Evan Darcy, Niall Leahy rounds out the top 20, with Isabel McDermott lining up in 21st position. Coogan there with a bit of weaving coming up to the tram lines and slowing down hugely. So trying to get that last bit of warmth. And indeed, Isabel McDermott has stalled. Now, what does that mean in terms of an extra formation lap? We wait for the lights to go out, and we go racing nonetheless, in spite of the misfortune for Isabel McDermott down the back of the pack. It is still Aaron Coogan who leads the way in front of Robert Butler, who manages to hold his position. Jack Mackenzie Smith still in third in front of Tyler Brereton, yes, who has made his way past Josh Allen. And that appears to be Isabel McDermott, who has got going again. So Isabel McDermott back into this contest. However, significantly down the order, and I'm not sure, did she receive external assistance there, or did she manage to get the kart restarted by herself? But if she did restart the kart by herself, then you have to give her credit. As we see Jack Mackenzie Smith making a move up the inside of Robert Butler, and Butler's into the gravel, and he's lost a huge amount of positions and time, and that's him right the way down the order. He started this lap in second. He's going to come across the line in about sixth. Indeed, he is now in sixth place. Yuri Bechtold is now the driver in front of him, as we see side by side for third place Josh Allen and Tyler Brereton. No, indeed, that is Yuri Bechtold, I believe. Indeed, Yuri Bechtold has now made his way up into, well, that is Bechtold in fourth place, with Brereton up in third. So the order is now Coogan, Mackenzie Smith, Brereton, Allen, and Yuri Bechtold. Now, it'll be interesting to see if there's any investigation there by the stewards into forcing another driver off the track, which would be terribly unfortunate for Jack Mackenzie Smith after pulling off such a tremendous move at turn number 13. That's not my decision to make, but it'll be interesting to watch the timing after the race and wait for the official classification. However, none of this is going to perturb Aaron Coogan, who still leads the way. An uneventful lead for him so far, with more than a second to Jack Mackenzie Smith behind. Mackenzie Smith not under pressure at the moment from Tyler Brereton, but Yuri Bechtold does have his metaphorical mirrors currently filled by Josh Allen as they make their way through the first sector. Still some battling going on up and down the track, and I thought that the 428 machine of Niall Leahy was missing a front fairing there for a moment, but it is simply just painted black. And Isabel McDermott, I believe, is either running significantly behind or has retired from the race. The timing showing her being a lap down already as Coogan comes across the line. Still no change into turn number one. All the seniors taking it easy, not particularly concerned with battling at this stage of the race, with more than 5 minutes on the clock, but only by 1 second. So we hit the 5 minute mark, 5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. The drivers all settling down into a rhythm, trying to find their own pace, trying to not engage in too much wheel-to-wheel combat at this stage. Slipstream is certainly more valuable than track position at this point of the race. With 3 laps completed, it is still Coogan who leads as he makes his way through the final corner, down to the start-finish line. What's the gap going to be? It was 1.2 across the line last time round. It's now 1.1. Jack Mackenzie Smith taking the fastest lap momentarily, and then it being claimed by Keith Burke, a 52.8 second time. So good showing by Keith Burke there, it has to be said. Burke currently running around in 6th position, with positions to gain, it has to be said. Currently in the 410 machine, chasing down Josh Allen, who himself is chasing down Yuri Bechtold. Everyone making their way without incident through the second sector. I can confirm Isabel McDermott has retired from the race, so an unfortunate start to the weekend for McDermott, stalling before the green light, and then unfortunately not taking any further part in the race, as we see Yuri Bechtold having to defend from Josh Allen behind. Allen up the inside, not able to pull the move off as they were side by side down the start-finish straight. Now that is going to play into the hands of Keith Burke, who is right behind him. Burke goes for a move up the inside. Can he make it stick? No, he can't. He gets a bit of a bump from Butler behind, who's going to be looking to make up places now side by side with Butler. Butler manages to take the position away from Keith Burke. The man who has put in such a tremendous shift for OHR in the past now falls down the order to 7th. Adam Butler serves himself with position number 6, as his name would suggest, as they make their way through the final sector for what is now the 6th time. Across the line with 2 minutes and 35 seconds left to go. That battle seems to have simmered down for the moment, although Butler is now in in a chasing mindset. He's set his sights on Josh Allen in front of him in that yellow helmet with the red overalls. Butler indeed trying to go for a move around the outside of turn number 5. That's a brave manoeuvre to make. It's not one that he can make on this occasion. So Josh Allen with the yellow helmet and red overalls, and then Butler with blue helmet and blue and black overalls. You can see there, and then chasing down Yuri Bechtold with the Tillotson overalls and the golden helmet. A tremendously beautiful helmet from Yuri Bechtold. Very easy to distinguish among the pack as they all make their way down the start-finish straight. Coogan has now stretched out a gap of 1.8 seconds over Mackenzie Smith and has claimed the fastest lap of the race so far. As we see side by side, Butler and that is Josh Allen. Josh Allen now falling down 2 positions. Keith Burke following Butler through. Now Butler goes in chase of 4th position, currently occupied by the aforementioned Yuri Bechtold in the 413 machine. So Bechtold will have a defensive job on his hands with just over a minute and a lap remaining. 1 lap around here is 52 seconds, so we can safely say that as they come across the line, the next lap, well actually it could be the next lap, it could be the lap after that is the penultimate lap. It will likely be the lap after next as the penultimate lap. So if my mental maths is correct, that is a 3-lap affair remaining, and still plenty of battling going on the fringes of the top 5. It is still Coogan, Mackenzie Smith and Brereton who occupy the top 3 positions, as now Keith Burke has managed to make his way past Robert Butler up into 5th position. Josh Allen still sitting in 7th, having lost those 2 positions. Plenty of battling towards the tail end of the pack as well. Although most of the leaders, indeed Coogan, is in a league of his own up the front. Coogan, who was ever so dominant here in round 1, now has a 2.4 second gap to the cart in front. And I can tell you the next lap will be the penultimate one. Yes, I thought I was speaking incorrectly then, but I wasn't. Yuri Bechtold really coming under pressure now from Keith Burke behind him. Burke really putting in a tremendous effort to climb up the order. Keith Burke really on the tail now, having started in what is ultimately 6th position. He's back where he started, minus 1 position. He's now occupying 5th. So decent showing from Burke. Strong pace certainly for the young man for OHR. His teammate Coogan still leads the way, now with a 2.5 second gap. No drama for the top 3. Indeed, no drama for, well, any of the top 10 really. It's very much that battle of Yuri Bechtold in the gold helmet and Keith Burke in the green helmet that we're focusing on at the moment. That has the potential to hot up at any moment as the last lap board is shown. As Aaron Coogan makes his way round, he will see the last lap board and know that it is the final lap that he is going on to, and he'll be going on to it with circa 2.5 seconds to Jack Mackenzie Smith behind, making his way up to the line. No, excuse me, that is the checkered flag. So the checkered flag flying, I misjudged the timing of that race. So it was Aaron Coogan who won in front of Jack Mackenzie Smith and Tyler Brereton. Then Keith Burke and Robert Butler in front of Yuri Bechtold. So apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen, misjudging the timing of the checkered flag there. So that concludes heat number 1 of the T4 seniors. It was Coogan who won in front of Mackenzie Smith and Brereton. Keith Burke, Robert Butler and Yuri Bechtold, who fell down to the back of that battle, unfortunately, on the final lap. Then came Josh Allen and Luke Palmer, with Luke Kavanagh and Brian Wilson rounding out the top 10. Then came Peter Brett and Warren Russell in front of Max O'Neill in 13th, Adam Butler in 14th, and Jake Brunel in 15th. Then came Ollie Clark and Evan Darcy in 16th and 17th respectively, Elijah Mooney in 18th, Jim Toomey in 19th, with Niall Leahy rounding out the top 20, and your final finisher with Isabel McDermott not making the finish, unfortunately. Well, very much a strategic battle then in T4 Senior, and a battle that we enjoyed greatly. One of those races where there isn't a whole lot happening in terms of on-track passes, but plenty happening in terms of the overall strategy of the race, trying to understand which drivers are battling who, when are they going to make a move. Now, unfortunately, my misjudgment of when the checkered flag was actually going to fall did perhaps somewhat mislead you into your understanding of when the battling would be taking place. But nevertheless, some tremendous battling there on the fringes of the top 5 between Burke, Butler and Bechtold, the 3 Bs, and then Josh Allen also coming in, however, about a second behind Bechtold in 6th position. So we now await the T4 Senior 168s. And the 168s, as we mentioned before, a very interesting class to watch in terms of the battles that they get up to. And I will bring you the grid in but a moment's time. T4 Senior 168s and the indeed the Masters category, although I'm not sure is the Masters still necessarily considered a category, or is it just lumped in with the 168s? Catering to the slightly older and the slightly heavier driver, the 168s with a minimum weight limit of 168 kilos, and also catering to drivers over the age of 30 with the Masters category. However, there are a number of drivers in the 168s who are very young indeed, who just choose to race in that category for one reason or another. Perhaps they've tried the regular T4 seniors in the past and weren't happy with their competitiveness, and so they've decided to move into the 168 category. Will be Kyle Kavanagh, however, who is on pole in front of Peter McBride in 2nd. Mickey Brennan will line up in 3rd, having taken 3rd position in the final last time out. Then Colin Munnelly will line up in front of Scott Garvey. Ryan Herson lines up in 6th in front of Niall Herson, his brother, in 7th. Eddie Roach, another podium sitter last time out, will line up in 8th in front of Brendan Bleeks and Philip Godfrey in 10th. Then comes Mark Gorman in 11th in front of Kevin Walsh in 12th. Thomas Croak in 13th in front of Niall O'Flynn, and Shauna Summers in 15th place. So we await the engaging of those TPP 225RS engines, 125cc for the Tillotson T4 Senior engines, the same engine used naturally between the seniors and the juniors, but these engines revving to 7,500 RPM compared to the 6,500 RPM of the T4 Junior category. Some of the results from last time out in Watergrass Hill, like I mentioned before, it was Niall Herson who took a clean sweep with pole victory in both the heats and the final. Eddie Roach finished in 2nd in the final in front of Mickey Brennan. Then Ryan Herson finished in 4th in front of Kyle Kavanagh in 5th. So Kyle Kavanagh really bouncing back from what wasn't his finest hour in Watergrass Hill, with only a 5th place finish in the final. Lining up on pole for this first heat in his grey and green overalls, getting those tyres warmed up. Mickey Brennan will start directly behind him in those white overalls with the white helmet. Peter McBride is, well, there's no two ways of saying it really. He's nowhere to be seen at this moment in time. So looking to the pre-grid area, I can't see that he's even taken to the track, unfortunately. So not sure where Peter McBride is. Kyle Kavanagh is certainly there, as is Mickey Brennan, but there doesn't look to be a Kyle Kavanagh. I think I may have seen the issue. It appears that Peter McBride is stranded on the exit of the pit lane and is now pushing his kart back to the pits. So a very difficult start to racing for Peter McBride, who should have been starting in second, but now will not take the start at all as we wait for the lights to go out. The lights go out and we go racing, and it's a tremendous start by Colin Munnelly, making his way round the outside and into first place. Fantastic start by Munnelly, who's doing a brilliant job instantaneously, jumping Kyle Kavanagh from third place, well, from fourth place on the grid, but a de facto second thanks to the distinct absence of Peter McBride. Mickey Brennan has fallen down the order. He's down to fourth, having started in second. That looks like it could be Ryan Herson who's jumped him. Scott Garvey appears to also have fallen down the order partially. However, it does appear that Peter McBride is actually in the race, so I was wrong in my assertion of him not taking part. Certainly the timing is showing that Peter McBride crossed the line in second, although I don't remember seeing him, so not sure if the timing is necessarily correct in that regard, as Danielle once again punches the air coming across the line. Danielle, Colin Munnelly's wife and arguably the biggest fan. Tremendous to see the family atmosphere here in the T4 Senior 168s. Very much a family event, even in the paddock, driver to driver, it's still very much a family atmosphere. Whereas other categories, things can get very serious. In the T4 Senior 168s, it's always a good time, even when there's contact, even when there's incidents. There's no love lost between the 168 competitors. Colin Munnelly still leads the way with the fastest lap of a 55.7. That is ultimately last time round. Well, there's no two ways of saying it. 1.3 seconds quicker than Kyle Kavanagh in second position. However, Kyle Kavanagh now takes the fastest lap away by about a tenth of a second there or thereabouts, 54.0 compared to the best lap of Munnelly, which is a 54.1. So that gap now closing. Mickey Brennan goes in hunt of Ryan Herson, who currently sits in third. Eddie Roach sitting behind Mickey Brennan. They had a decent battle last time out in Watergrass Hill. Could we see that continue on later on into this race? Later on into this event with, well, half the race left to go. In fact, more than half the race left to go, plus another heat and a final for them. One of the tremendous things about this level of competition is that every driver will be able to take part in a final. There is no knockout system, which is a tremendous aspect of the championship, especially in the T4 series. At the Nations Cup in Valencia each year, there is a knockout system with only the top 36 drivers making it through to the final. However, at this level of contest, no such elimination exists. And that's tremendous to see. Now, Colin Munnelly just managing that gap to Kyle Kavanagh behind him. Now, they were about matched last time round. A 53.896 for Colin Munnelly, a 53.844, so about half a tenth quicker from Kyle Kavanagh last time round, setting the fastest lap. Tremendous performance by Kyle Kavanagh, trying to bounce back into first position, and that gap is noticeably closing as they make their way across the line. Mickey Brennan still hunting down Ryan Herson, who sits in third. Ryan Herson, the lead Herson in this contest, with Niall not being able to take... Oh, he did take the start, excuse me. He's running down in 8th position at the minute, so difficult time for Niall Herson as Eddie Roach makes his way past Mickey Brennan. He punches the air in excitement. Mickey Brennan throws up his hand in frustration. I don't think there was any contact there, but perhaps just a little bit of showmanship there from Eddie Roach, rather than the usual sportsmanship, just trying to get in the head of Mickey Brennan ever so slightly, and Mickey Brennan seemed to take the bait on that one, throwing his hand into the air in frustration, but still plenty of time with 3.5 minutes left on the clock. Colin Munnelly, that time round, did extend the gap, retakes the fastest lap, a 53.8 second lap time for Colin Munnelly, and they are really stretching away. 2.5 seconds is the gap from Kavanagh to Herson between second and third. You'll excuse the voice crack there, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan Herson getting a little bit of a tag, it looked like, from Eddie Roach, who's sitting in 4th place, trying to take a very wide line through turn number 5, and just leaving the door open for Eddie Roach, who tried to oblige but unfortunately wasn't able to. This is what I really love about the T4168, is there's so much ability, but there's also so much calmness, but also showmanship. It's a perfect balance, really. There's no unnecessary aggression. It's very precise, with many of these drivers having many years of karting experience. Some of them, the likes of Philip Godfrey and Thomas Croke, with novice plates, so the black plate with the white numbers, so catering to novice drivers as well as the more experienced racers. And you can really see the experience in the quality of racing as we see Eddie Roach trying to go for a move once again up the inside of Ryan Herson. Can't make it stick. Ryan Herson really intent on taking that wide line and just leaving the door open for Eddie Roach every single time. Now, I fear that there could be contact there at some point. Mercifully, there hasn't been yet, as they all make their way through turn number 12. Towards the front, still no change, still about the same gap. It was 3 tenths coming across the line. We won't make it complicated with my phraseology. Extending the gap. Kyle Kavanagh falls back by 0.2 of a second over that last lap. And the battle for 5th place is very much on at the moment. Mickey Brennan having lost out to Scott Garvey. So Scott Garvey now sitting in 5th position. In those blue overalls, here goes Eddie Roach up the inside of Ryan Herson. Roach takes the position, takes 3rd place away from Herson. Herson's going to be looking to get it back, however. Will there be a retaliatory move? We've been seeing that move being shaped up for a number of laps now, but finally, with 1 minute on the clock, as we see a warning flag for the 510 machine of Mark Gorman. Now, not sure, is that a warning flag or a penalty? But certainly the 510 machine being shown the black and white flag. Colin Munnelly still leads the way. This time by 0.6 of a second across the line, so the gap extending again. Eddie Roach with Ryan Herson all over his back bumper. Then comes Scott Garvey in the blue overalls. Then Mickey Brennan in the white overalls. And then Niall Herson behind in the red and black overalls with the white helmet. And could even Brendan Bleeks get involved with the white helmet behind and the blue visor? Possibly, but with only 15 seconds left to go as the leaders make their way through the final couple of corners. Dare I say it, the next lap will be the last one. I don't see the leaders emerging through the final corner, and yes, this will be the final lap. The last lap board is being shown. Colin Munnelly passes the last lap board. Doesn't improve on his best lap, as we see still battling going on. That looks to be Herson taking back the position from Eddie Roach. Scott Garvey really getting involved in this battle now. At this stage, he's going to be shaping something up. He looks up the inside of Eddie Roach. Can he get the switch back through turn 5? No, it's a difficult thing to do. But Ryan Herson takes back the position on the final lap. Up at the front, it is still Munnelly who leads by some distance. Kyle Kavanagh sitting behind. Eddie Roach having fallen down, being taken by Ryan Herson on this final lap. They all make their way up to turn number 12. No drama at this stage. Here comes Eddie Roach making the move back up the inside, though, on Ryan Herson. But it will be Colin Munnelly who takes victory in Heat 1 in front of Kyle Kavanagh in second, who put a valiant effort in from first place. The battle for position 3 will go to Ryan Herson, who just took back the position from Eddie Roach on the final lap. Then came Scott Garvey and Mickey Brennan, who finished in 6th place after a tremendous battle, which he'll be very disappointed about finishing last in, but hey-ho, there you go. He smashes the wheel in disappointment. Mickey Brennan not very happy with that performance whatsoever, but a valiant effort put in by all of our competitors nonetheless. Niall Herson checks over his shoulder, and there appears to be some words there between Herson and Brennan. So the order was Munnelly from Kavanagh from Herson, then came Eddie Roach, Scott Garvey, Mickey Brennan, Brendan Bleeks, Mark Gorman, Philip Godfrey, Niall Herson, and Kevin Walsh, with Thomas Croke rounding out the finishing order. Now, Mark Gorman may have some questions to answer, having that black and white flag shown against him, but it wasn't an order back to the pits at least, so I would say, so long as he behaves nicely in future, he should be all right. Only one more race then in this first round of heats. That is the Miami X30 Seniors. What a competition that is set to be. Now, the smallest X30 Senior grid that we've had this season, only 13 karts, as we mentioned previously, but it will be a tremendous contest with many fast runners, and the joy of it is that wherever you are in terms of pace, the likelihood is that you will be involved in a battle of some description. All of the T4 Senior 168s made it to the finish, oh goodness me, which means no clean-up operation for the marshals. And it will be Sean Hogan who leads us towards the lights for the X30 Senior Heat number 1. Then will come Luke Agnew, the very fast driver who has shown tremendous form up until this point of the championship. Jack Buckley will line up in 3rd alongside Daniel Kavanagh in 4th. Then comes Emma Carey on row 3 in 5th place in front of Jack Dillon. Then Martin Foley in 7th in front of Gavin O'Dwyer in 8th. Rory O'Connor will start in 9th. Shane O'Neill rounds out the top 10. Then comes Clara O'Regan in front of Jake McGlinchey. And then Evan Johnson will round out the grid in 13th place. So a tremendous set of racing waiting for us in the T4, the X30 Senior Heat number 1. And we're tremendously looking forward to it. All the drivers get into their tram lines. We wait for the green light to be shown. We wait for lights out. We have 8 red lights. And now we have none. We go racing, but we go racing very, very late. The lights going off at the last possible second. It was almost like the leaders had gone underneath the gantry before the lights. And there is a start procedure error there with the lights going out too late. Yellow flags are being shown around the course, and that was a false start. So the red lights being held for too long, I think that was the cause of it at least. I don't believe it was an issue with tram lines. However, I was looking at the lights and not the carts coming round. So it seems to just be that the lights were held on for too long, which certainly seemed to be the case from my position at least. And so we will go for another start, this final heat in the first round of heats for X30 Senior. As I say, it is Sean Hogan who is going to lead the way down into the first corner. He's going to hope, at least. He also scored pole position last time out in Watergrass Hill, and then managed to convert that into a win in heat number 1. He's going to be looking to do the same as they make their way to the lights. We go green now and we go racing, and it looks to be Sean Hogan who will lead down into the first corner. It looks like Jack Buckley trying to make his way past and has got up into 2nd place. Luke Agnew has fallen down the order ever so slightly as the 812 machine, that is, of Martin Foley having a dreadful start, only just getting across the line now. So peeling into the pits, it looks like an issue for Martin Foley. Never mind, he is still continuing on, but significantly further back than he would have hoped. So it is still Sean Hogan who leads in front of Jack Buckley. From what I can see from my position, I don't think there's been a change for the lead at this stage of the race. And now here comes the change for 2nd place. However, that looks to be Luke Agnew falling down the order. and getting passed by, excuse me, it is now Jack Buckley who leads. So Jack Buckley did make his way up into first place on that lap. Sean Hogan making his way down to third and then back up to second past Luke Agnew. Agnew still trying to fight back, however, as we see a battle for fifth position between Daniel Kavanagh and Jack Dillon, that looks like. Emma Carey sitting behind them, going to be thinking, what can I get from this? So that is a battle emerging for position number 5. Everyone's settling down into a rhythm almost immediately. The tyres will be heated up at this stage, but these IAME machines with 2 sets of tyres, or excuse me, one set of slicks per event. So tyre management is going to be a factor that has to be considered in the IAME X30s, with significant G-forces being applied to them. You're going to have to manage that rubber throughout the weekend. Don't use the tyres too early on, otherwise it's going to leave you at a significant disadvantage when you get to the final. Everyone staying reasonably calm. Jack Buckley with a lead of 0.8 seconds, so 8 tenths was the gap as they crossed the line. Sean Hogan had 2 tenths to Luke Agnew behind. Luke Agnew really putting Sean Hogan under a bit of pressure, but that's nothing new. We saw Luke Agnew take a tremendous victory on the track last time out in Watergrass Hill before being penalised for contact with Andre de Bayer, who isn't racing this weekend, unfortunately. That ultimately shuffled Luke Agnew down the order of the final classification to 4th, so missing out on the podium. Another notable absence is John Norris, the only driver in the Masters category this year, as indeed he was also last year the only driver in the Masters. Not competing this weekend. He'll be missed dearly, but you know, I'll gladly take home the Masters trophy and look after it for him if he wants. That's if they brought one to the event, that is, which I'm not entirely sure about, but you know, any excuse for a bit of silverware. Commentator of the Year award, how about that? We'll repurpose it. Across the line, the leaders come, then it is still Jack Buckley who leads the way. Sean Hogan now half a second behind him, so that gap starting to close up a little bit. Luke Agnew sits 7 tenths behind Buckley, so that battle for first place really hotting up, with Emma Carey sitting in 4th, so a battle for first and a battle for 4th could emerge fairly soon. Daniel Kavanagh sits behind Carey and then Dillon behind him. So the order currently, as someone has been removed from the timing screen, so I believe a retirement of some description. We'll bring you news as to who that is. Unfortunately, someone not managing to make it to the finish. Jack Buckley, though, still leading the way. Sean Hogan really hurrying him on now, closing that gap to just under 4 tenths. So it's more or less equidistant now. Between Buckley and Hogan is just under 4 tenths. Between Hogan and Agnew is just under 3 tenths. So that gap really closing down. Emma Carey not able to do a whole lot to close up to them in 4th. So it looks like she's not going to get much higher than 4th in this race, barring a collision at the front, which we don't wish for at all, because that would mean the end of this tremendous battle. As we see the leaders battling away, and that looks like Sean Hogan going for a move up the inside. Luke Agnew trying to follow him through, and Jack Buckley suddenly having been shuffled down to 3rd position. Making their way across the line, the timing screen confirms it is now Sean Hogan who leads, with Luke Agnew in 2nd. Hogan with the fastest lap, 47.2 second lap time. Agnew being hassled and harangued by Buckley behind through the first sector. And now Dillon really closing up also to Daniel Kavanagh. So that could be another battle that we watch for, as all the leaders make their way through. Still no changes thus far, but a tremendous overtaking opportunity at this stage of the lap if you're close enough, which none of them are, unfortunately. Making their way onto the start-finish straight. 2.5 minutes left on the clock, plus 1 lap. The gap across the line between Hogan and Agnew, half a second. So Hogan really trying to pull away now, and Agnew pulling away from Buckley also. Not sure, did I say Agnew or Ague? It is Luke Agnew in that distinctive orange kart with the black overalls and the multicoloured helmet. Doing a tremendous job as well, it has to be said. As we see, Emma Carey still heading up her battle, which presently isn't a real battle, but it could develop into one later on in the event. Later on in the race as they make their way across the line once again. No improvement on the best lap, still held by Sean Hogan, who's doing a good job to manage the pace up in first, especially with two very quick drivers behind him of Agnew and Buckley. Everyone making their way through the first sector as Emma Carey has come undone. Emma Carey is out of the race and stranded on the inside of turn 5. That's a dangerous place to be for Emma Carey. Just coming out of turn number 4, seemed to have a little bit of contact with the curb and then absolutely no drive whatsoever. She was disqualified from heat number 2 last time out for working on the kart in the dummy grid area, and she's DNF'd from heat number 1 this time around for some kind of mechanical failure. Perhaps the chain came off, perhaps there was some other issue, but just no drive on the exit of turn 4 for Emma Carey, and she's going to be desperately disappointed at that, having been running in 4th place for almost the entirety of the race so far. Sean Hogan won't be affected by this, and it does mean that Jack Dillon and Daniel Kavanagh get up into 4th and 5th respectively, so that's extra points for them. And with 19 seconds left on the clock, I don't believe that the leaders are going to make it to the line in time, although they might, as Sean Hogan makes his way up to the line and crosses it with 2 seconds remaining. So the next lap will be the last, as I take a look out of my window and see that it is 2 seconds as they cross the line. And Luke Agnew, look at that gap that he's reeled in to Sean Hogan. Jack Buckley seems to have just fallen down the pace slightly, and this seems to be a 2-horse race for the victory between Hogan and Agnew. No other real battles happening down the pack, although one could emerge at some point on the fringes of the top 10. As I can see the 8-10 machine, that looks like, of Clara O'Regan heading up Jack McClinchy and Martin Foley. They're the final runners in the race, but still our sights remain fixed on the leaders making their way around. Next lap will be the last, or excuse me, no, this lap is the last. I simply missed the last lap board, although it is displayed on the screen. So it is now all or nothing for Luke Agnew, and he has fallen behind ever so slightly. The gap was 3/10 as they came across the line, so a job to do into the final couple of corners for Luke Agnew. Not able to make anything of it through turn number 12 or 13, and through turn 14 still nothing can be done by Luke Agnew, and it will be Sean Hogan who comes up to the line and wins in heat number 1. Luke Agnew finishes in an honourable second in front of Jack Buckley in third. Jack Dillon and Daniel Kavanagh across the line in 4th and 5th respectively, in front of Rory O'Connor, who comes across the line in 6th. Shane O'Neill will power to the finish in 7th in front of Gavin O'Dwyer, and Clara O'Regan, who wins out in that battle with Jack McClinchy and Martin Foley, who finish in 10th and 11th in that order. Emma Carey was the only driver to not make it to the finish in that heat. An unfortunate end after only 8 laps for the young woman, who had an unfortunate time last time out as well, but she will be back. She will be better in heat number 2. She'll have a score to settle, and I'm sure she'll settle it very effectively, as we see her standing by her kart, looking at it dejectedly as all the other competitors file their way into the pits to conclude the first batch of heats for this round 3 of the Tillotson Ireland Karting Championship, brought to you live by Vantage Point Video on Facebook and YouTube. Do make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a like on the live stream and make sure to like our Facebook page if you're watching on Facebook also. Big thank you to Senan and Sarah for their work in putting this live stream together. It really is a tremendous setup that has been provided here and adding so much value to the Tillotson Ireland Karting Championship, with live coverage for you here at the track on the live stream and also for those of you watching along at home. It's been a wonderful morning of racing so far here in Kilkenny at Kiltorcan Raceway. This 1,052 metre circuit still holds much more racing for us later on this afternoon. We are running slightly behind schedule, which means a slightly shorter lunch break. The lunch break was supposed to be from 12 until 1. However, it is now 20 minutes past 12, so I anticipate a shorter lunch break. So do make sure to join us back here at 1 o'clock local time for the second heat of the T4 Bambinos, followed by the second heat of every other category, and then the finals ahead of the prize giving, which is scheduled to be at around 22 or 20 past or half past 5 local time. So do stay tuned here on Facebook and YouTube and join us back here at 1 o'clock.